I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the history of this place, of this space. I want to acknowledge the ancestors that once walked these paths before they were paths. I want to acknowledge the spirits that flow through this land and that ultimately flow through us as gifts that we give to this place. The space between. My mother is from Sanur, Bali. My father is Australian. I was born in Australia, and my heart is here. My grandfather was a high caste Hindu priest. His name was Ida Padanda Kutut Sidaman. He was a poet. He was a scholar, he was a philosopher, and he served the needs of his people, his religion, and he fulfilled his destiny. He walked towards it selflessly. His teacher was Ida Padanda Made Sidaman, who was a poet, a scholar, a philosopher, and a wanderer. He wandered this earth for 126 years. Now, before coming to Green School, I was working in a small, rural town, you could say, on the central coast of New South Wales, Australia. And I was working in a Waldorf school. And the biggest gift I now walk with today and stand with today is this idea of ideals. So understanding my changing, ever-evolving ideal self and what I perceive that to be. And if I can try and do that and have a grasp of where I am, where I'm going, how I am now, where I've come from, what's happening in the front, then perhaps I have a better understanding of you as you stand before me right now. Can we acknowledge that we all have a past? Can we acknowledge that we are all making sense of the present? Can we acknowledge that we all look towards the future and what that holds for us and our precious children? I want to invite you into a story now. This is a true story. I was absolutely blessed to live in a beachfront home without having the monetary funds to do so, but somehow I did it. And it was the closest home to the shoreline. From the top floor, you could see a 180-degree view of the ocean. I could watch the dolphins, the whales, the birds migrate, the fish, the dark clouds within the water of fish. And if I was fast enough, if I could spot a pod of dolphins, I could run downstairs, I could grab a board, I could paddle out, and I could dive down and wait. Wait for the clicks, wait for the whistles. And I was even lucky enough at times to be able to be surrounded by dolphins. And even fleeting moments of when their eyes looked into mine. But this is not a human, this is not a nature story. This is a human nature story. And there was this man, I woke up one morning, he was coughing, and I thought that was strange because they were all holiday houses. So I went upstairs, I had a look down, and underneath the balcony, there was a man in a sleeping bag. He leaned over, he was stirring what I assumed was some sort of cold drink. So I thought, in that moment, perhaps I didn't actually think, but on reflection I did. I made a choice not to be a law-abiding neighbour who takes care of their neighbour's property and someone who's trespassing. I didn't pick up my phone and call the police and said there's a strange man next door. I did what any good human being would do. And I made a nice hot cup of coffee and I took it down to this guy. And I said, hey, you need a hot drink, not a cold drink. It's cold, right? And he got up and he walked to me without looking in my eyes, grabbed the cup, took a drink, looked at me in the eyes and said, don't you have sugar? And so began this interesting 2 to 3 weeks of my life, which I'm standing here and you can feel it, right? What was this? He was so interesting and eccentric. He had a cap on with solar panels that fed into a light, and from this cap went thin copper wire around his ears, down connected to certain crystals around his body. And there would be times where he would not let me go. He would hold on to me and he would tell me the intricate weavings of this universe. He would use a vocabulary which I had no idea even existed. And I would look this up, and the words he was saying were in fact factually, contextually correct. And then there would be times where we would literally be the only two people on this stretch of beach, and he would walk with his head down and not even acknowledge my existence. What was the space between him and I like? What were my expectations? Where had he come from? What am I met at this present point in time? And after a couple of weeks, he just disappeared. Where had he gone? So now I'd like to invite you into my creativity, which you got a sneak peek before. There. So this is me attempting to make sense of this. And mind you, I actually found this bracelet here, and I'm sorry if it's yours. I really am, but it's just too good to let go now. But it has copper wire running around it, and it's connected to crystals. So if we look to the left here, this is referring to the past, our experiences, what we bring from the past. If we flow through to the right side, this is the future manifestations of where we will go, what we will do. And as we circle back to the center, these are our strivings, our dreams, our ambitions, which directly have an input on how we present in the present. So, realization, acknowledge. Can we realize that we all have a past, but can we also acknowledge that even if we did know the past of every single person in this room, could we truly feel what that's like to have lived those experiences? Realization, acknowledge what we bring, what we carry, knowingly and unknowingly from our past, as individuals, as collectives, as organizations. Journey, becoming. Can we acknowledge that we are gifted with this moment of being part of someone else's journey? Just stop and think. Green school, 40-odd different nationalities, and we are standing here at this point in time. What a gift. Influence, recognize. These are our strivings, our ambitions, our dreams that we hold as individuals and we also hold as collectives. And these directly influence on the now, which leads us to the present, our arriving moment, our meeting point. Can we strive toward our ideal self as we acknowledge this in others, despite what we're presented with, despite how you might say to me something in a particular way that could be culturally something that I need to learn or you need to learn? Can we uphold a sense of reverence for others so that we can be absolutely present for those that are with us? And can we extinguish our egos? Ask them to be quiet for a moment. Put someone else first. So that we can courageously allow others to step forward into their future and be their authentic, true selves. I would like to begin closing with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. And this is a quote that a previous class 5 and I would recite in the morning prior to beginning any work together. I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from a higher source, and I salute that source in you. Let us work together for unity and peace. Now may these words echo throughout the foundations of education itself, and may they travel far and deep into the future. May we continuously remind ourselves and each other of the absolute need for human connection. May we journey together with our individual and collective strivings toward an unknown future, because I am and we are. The young people of today are unapologetically demanding us to nurture this ground so that they can deliver a future that is beyond our capacities. If we as educators, if we as parents, if we as leaders, if we as schools, if we as educational bodies that govern us can remind ourselves that young people belong in the center of this delicate space, much like a fallen bird that is placed back into its nest, then if I am blessed to walk this earth for 126 years, like Ida Padanda Made Sidaman, my grandfather's teacher, then I will walk knowing that the future is in capable hands. Thank you.